Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregivers Caregiver radio program on Health Star Worldwide, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. They say that there are only three types of people in the world: those who are caregivers, those who will become caregivers, and those who will someday need a caregiver. Join Dave and his guests now and every Tuesday at noon Pacific on Radio Star Worldwide as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day so you can live your caregiver life more fully and abundantly. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassaney.
From Los Angeles, a great LA welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. Yes, folks, I am Dave, the Caregivers Caregiver, coming to you live through the Radio Star Worldwide networks. And yes, folks, I am the guy who you've heard about who's going to help you and guide you through this very difficult journey called caregiving. You know, sometimes I just make myself laugh. And we're going to do our very best to help you avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout. Yes, that is a nasty thing. And we have an exciting show planned for you today, as we do every week with my lovely co-host, Adrienne Gruberg from the Caregiver Space.
Hi.
Hi, Adrienne. And we will be interviewing Richard Barrio, who lost his wife 2 years ago and has been on this show. And we're going to get an update on how he's been doing for the last couple of years. He's reclaimed his life, post-caregiver. And he's dating, and he's doing exciting adventures like climbing Kilimanjaro. Oh, my gosh.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe some of that will rub off. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this show. And if you're new to this show, we get many new listeners every week, especially since we've gone video. And I'm your host, Dave Nassaney, and this show is caregivers of every single kind. And the one thing we know about caregivers is that they are caring, and they're selfless, and they're sacrificial. And let's see. Oh, they're also very prone to burnout because they tend to put everyone else's needs above their own. Hello. Like the airlines tell us, in the event of an emergency, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help your loved one with their mask. And the airlines know what they're talking about, folks, because they have observed that when you don't put your needs above your loved one's needs, you will most likely black out, and then you won't be of any good to anybody with anything. Now, we also talk about grief and loss here and the devastating effects it has on us. It automatically throws us into this other thing called the grief process. Ouch. Unfortunately, folks, only one way out of the grief process. You got to go through it. Can't go around it, over it, under it. Got to go through it. Sorry. And hopefully we can help you through your grief and your loss if you happen to feel like you're stuck. I want to thank my last week's guest. And Adrienne is making a lot of noise back there, but we're going to try to ignore her. Sharon Brubaker, who's a certified grief recovery specialist and a certified life coach with A Time to Grieve, which is the premier center for grief and loss here in the Santa Clarita Valley in Southern California. And just a reminder, you can hear that interview on our podcast, on our website, as well as all of them, especially this one who we're doing today. So find the link on my website, caregiverscaregiver.com. That's caregivers with an S, caregiver without an S.com. And while you're there, take our short quiz to see if you're a candidate for burnout. And just for doing that, I'm going to send you my first book absolutely free. Still getting rave reviews on it. What a deal. All right, enough of that. Richard, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for agreeing to this interview today. I really appreciate it. Are you there?
Yeah, Dave, I'm here. Everything's going good.
And I'm sorry we can't see you. I guess your Skype isn't updated. So frustrating. But you can always Google Richard's name, and I'm sure his handsome picture will come up on the screen. So, Richard, why don't you take a minute or two and introduce yourself? Just who is Richard Barrier, and what's he doing on my show?
Well, I'll tell you, Dave, I'm sort of working on the new version of Richard, if you will. And obviously, like you said, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and I've done a bunch of other things. I realized it took a couple of years, but I realized that I needed to, I don't want to say reinvent myself, but become the next version of me, since I only have to worry about myself right now. And I work in tech. I do phone apps. I do a few other things to make some money on the side as well. And right now, I just bought tickets for Buenos Aires, which I'm going to in December. I
Wow.
do martial art called Pacua, and they have it started in Buenos Aires, and it's their 40th international gathering.
You
And
are an overachiever, aren't you, Richard?
well, it's part of, you know what? The uh, it's what I'm doing to lose weight. I used to weigh 230 pounds.
Oh,
I'm down to 205. I want to get down to 175.
wow.
And by doing martial arts and yoga and just going on long walks in preparation for going to Africa for a month,
Oh my
um, I lost 30 pounds and probably built up 5 pounds of muscle. And it's like I'm just moving on. And and to your point, it's in my opinion, it's okay to be selfish because it's not selfish in a bad way. I'm just looking out for myself because the last time you were told don't be selfish is you were a little kid. As we get older, you better be a bit selfish with your own self-interests, although still being ethical about it, to survive, especially after the loss of a loved one.
Mm, wow. So how has it been 2 years since your wife
It's
died?
it's it's almost 2 years. It'll be October 3rd, and the good news, if you will, is she did pass away from cancer. For about a year, she had breast cancer, and at the same time, she had dementia, and I was her caregiver for 8 years for that.
Double whammy.
And yeah, it's and I would tell you, you think you're handling the stress, but once she passed, there was this. It was like this great weight was lifted off of me
Hmm.
um, that I didn't even know was there, and
Yeah.
you just don't know because they don't have, well, maybe they do have classes in how to handle stress, but being a caregiver, but I never went to them. But she passed away in her own bed in her sleep. I was right there for her, so I was truly blessed by that.
Well, that's why they say you just don't know what you don't know.
No, you're right. In fact, it's funny that we're having this conversation today. I'm actually talking to my insurance agent tomorrow about long-term care insurance for myself.
How old are you?
I'm 59.
59. Well, you waited a little late, but it's cheaper the younger you are, but I think it's still maybe affordable. But I've got a policy. I got it when I was 48. It cost me $110 a month, and it's good for $400 a day. So that'll give you something to compare to.
Wow. Wow.
So, Richard,
Yeah.
explain where you are today compared to the last 2 years. You mentioned you're doing all these things.
Yeah.
There was a grieving period, right? So,
Oh, big
how,
time. It's like,
how did you get through it?
well, so everybody understands. I was, like I said, a caregiver for my wife for 8 years, but we were together for 30 years. And, in the beginning, it's like you just tear up a lot. But, tearing up or outright crying has more or less gone away. I still tear up a little bit, in going through her things. I'd find a sweater that I liked that she had. I'm just getting a little choked up. And I could smell her perfume on it. And so that brings in a whole flood of memories and emotions.
Mm,
But I think I I think you sort of get over the grieving period, but there always will be that one little piece of grief. And it's not a bad grief, it's just a memory.
yeah. Well, you and Adrienne have something in common because she also lost her husband, and he also had more than one thing wrong with him, right, Adrienne?
Well, he had cancer, but he was diagnosed with cancer when he had peritonitis.
Oh,
But
gee.
the peritonitis goes away. It was lung cancer. I had my mother-in-law with me too, who had lymphoma. So I
Mm,
was dealing with two different cancers. But I only had to deal with dementia, I would say, the last month of Steve's life.
yeah.
And you
Well,
say you went into caring for your wife's cancer. She already had dementia.
yes. Yeah, the cancer was breast cancer, and it was going away really, really well. In fact, we even traveled to Virginia. I took her with me on a business trip, and then we got back, and a few days later, it just literally came back with a vengeance,
Mm.
and she passed within 5 days.
Wow.
So, um, what I like to say, in a way, having dementia and cancer at the same time is a blessing because she could never remember that she had cancer, so she never stressed over it at all.
Mm.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. And
So how exactly, Richard, do you move from grief or burnout to a richer, more rewarding life, which you obviously are exhibiting great symptoms of?
thank you. I am having a lot of fun. I'm actually going on a Caribbean cruise in January as well. Um, you pray a lot. You do pray a lot. And at one point, you know it in your brain and your logic that you got to move on, but it's that tipping point just sort of happens where now you know it in your heart, and you just sort of make the decision to move on because that's what your loved one would have wanted you to do.
It is a decision to move on, isn't it? Those that seem to get stuck haven't made that decision. Confused people, they say,
Yep.
do nothing.
Yep.
So there's a lot of confused people when a spouse dies and they don't know what to do. They don't even know if they want to be a caregiver to somebody else. Some people go out and volunteer at the senior center or hospitals without even realizing what they're doing. That may be good, that may be bad. It just depends on you and what you're going through and what kind of rest you need and so on. So explain the type of grief that you experienced and for how long and what were the symptoms and how did you finally get out of it?
The thing was a very heavy heart, and I could only sleep on my side of the bed for a long, long time. And then I had to make a conscious decision that it was okay to lay on her side. It's almost like I'd have to, after a while, this took a while, I would just like lay on her side of the bed. And, it's just a real heavy heart, and you get, especially for a 59 or 58-year-old man, 57-year-old man at the time, it's a little tough because we're always taught, be tough, do this, do that. But I decided that it was all right to be emotional, and crying for me was such a release, of just stress and everything. And it's like, of course I do it in the privacy of my own home, but I think the other thing that really helped me out a lot, Dave, is I didn't go away from my friends because, they're part of the grieving process too. Because especially if they knew your wife or your loved one, I mean, they're going through a bit of a grieving themselves. But I forced myself to get outside. I think the worst thing you could do is just, stay in the same apartment or a house or whatever and just sort of hide from the world. You have to, again, consciously put yourself out there. And it might be just going to the grocery store or the mall where you're going to see nobody that you know, but at least you're being social.
So you made some conscious, difficult decisions.
Yes.
And you went against the grain, and it turned out to be a good thing. And then those decisions, it seems like they just built upon each other. I mean, you don't just go from, my wife died, I think I'll go climb Kilimanjaro, There's a process, right?
Yeah. There's a great book. I can't remember his name. First name is Jeff. I think it's Olson, called The Slight Edge. Mm-hmm. And every day it's like, you don't jump in, like say, go to Kilimanjaro. You do a little bit today, then a little more tomorrow on working on yourself, or purposely choosing a direction you want to go. And you don't, like I said, you don't jump there right away. You make little slight changes every day that build on themselves.
Wow. That's great advice.
Can I ask what the first thing you did when you started to make this move was? How did you jump in?
Oh, wow. I'm still here. I'm just trying to think. It's like, because it was 2 years ago. Well, I've been doing half marathons now for several years. So I walk a lot, which is also can be very meditative, if you will.
Yes.
Because I'm what's known as the Zen walker, because I don't plug in. don't connect. I just sort of, I find walking very meditative. And I just, and I have some phenomenal friends that one friend of mine climbed Kilimanjaro, and he was having an event where I actually met his guide. And it was funny, at the same time I was reading a book called The Seven Summits, and it's about the gentleman, Dick Bass, who was actually the first one to climb all the highest peaks in all 7 continents. And I found that inspirational. Now, Everest scares the hell out of me, but I figured Kilimanjaro is probably one of the easiest ones. Not easy, but one of the easiest ones. And I really wanted to challenge myself and give me a goal so big, bigger than doing a half a marathon or even a marathon, is to help get me in shape. It's like at that one I did dive both feet in, because you can't decide to go to Kilimanjaro and just go. You got to do a little preparation.
So the marathons were a new thing for you?
I had been doing marathons and half marathons since March of 2010 when I did the LA Marathon. And it just sort of built from there, because, and also, and it gets to your point about being a caregiver, I created my own time, my own space, where I knew Martha was okay. She was at home, or she was asleep, or watching TV or something. So I could actually leave for a few hours and give myself my time to me. And yeah, that's how it all started.
You don't have any sound, Dave.
I says you were being a good caregiver, taking care of yourself and putting your needs first, even while she was alive. High points and kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. I mean, I would have gone crazy if I hadn't.
Yeah. Well, me too. I'm sure Adrienne as well.
Me too. Not everybody realizes that they can do that.
So we know now that Richard's a smart guy. Not that caregivers who don't get this aren't smart, but it's a process, and sometimes there's denial. The grief process, and we don't think about it, or we're clueless as to what we're going, or like you said, you didn't realize at the time just how much freedom you needed, or how much. I forget how you worded it, but it was good.
Yeah, well, there's a level of stress that's always that you're not aware of. And literally when she passed, I'm still grieving heavily when she passed. Mm-hmm. And but there was this, all I got to do is worry about the cats and myself now. And the cats are easy.
Oh, I thought the cats were harder than a wife.
I'm not going there. I was married for 30 years. I know when to not respond.
Well, listen, it's break time. Let's take a short break, and we will be right back. And Richard, if you want to try to upload a still picture of you while we're on our break, you can, if you think you can do it within 2 minutes. So we'll be right back.
Being a caregiver takes a special person with passion and compassion. But even you can become a little burned out from time to time. The Caregivers Caregiver radio show was developed to help you overcome obstacles, adversity, and burnout, as well as just having a place to rest, relax, and recharge your batteries. We've all been there, and you're not alone. Now, you can take the Caregivers Caregiver with you. Get the top 25 radio shows in convenient form that plugs right into your USB car stereo or computer. Learn the techniques, tips, and encouragement we all need to better handle the day-to-day challenges. For around $1 per show, just $29.77, get the credit card-sized USB card to have with you anytime you need a caregiver's pick-me-up. Just go to DaveTheCaregiversCaregiver.com and order yours today. Go to DaveTheCaregiversCaregiver.com now. Consider it an investment in you, and ultimately, an investment in them. Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and tune into Dave, the Caregivers Caregiver radio program on Radio Star Worldwide, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. With roughly 100 million caregivers in the U.S. and Canada alone, it's about 1/3 of the population. That means everybody probably knows somebody caring for a loved one. They say that there are only 3 types of people in the world: those who are caregivers, those who will become caregivers, and those who will someday need a caregiver. Mothers of special needs children, family members caring for elderly parents, spouses, siblings, or friends caring for disabilities such as Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, stroke, heart disease, diabetes, muscular dystrophy, AIDS, autoimmune diseases. The list goes on. Join Dave and his guests every Tuesday at 12 noon Pacific on Radio Star Worldwide as they discuss avoiding caregiver burnout and surviving grief. You'll start feeling better in no time as you begin to receive practical tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help you get through the day and to live life more fully and abundantly.
And we're back with Richard Barrier and Adrienne Gruberg of the Caregiver Space. Richard,
Yes, sir.
guess you couldn't figure out the image.
Not in 2 minutes.
Not in 2 minutes. So let me ask you about guilt. Guilt's a biggie, when we talk to people about, thinking about their needs first, and even after a death, putting themselves first. Guilt seems to be an obstacle. Did you have to deal with any guilt when considering, dating again or doing activities or even, sleeping on her side of the bed?
That I've never thought about that. I wouldn't say guilt, maybe some regret that, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. But if you keep thinking about regret will tear you up just as much as guilt will. And it's like, no, I didn't have any guilt at all. I had a bit of regret that maybe I should have took classes in caregiving or to do this or to do that, or maybe before she had dementia, we should have done this that she always wanted to do. But no, I'd say regret, but I'm over regret because, again, that was 2 years ago. And it's like how I was raised. I'm 59, so there were no Dr. Spock books. There was no Dr. Phil on TV. So my folks raised me as well as they knew how, because they learned it from their family. Well, I took care of her as best as I could, and in talking with you and a few other people, I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah, you did. Adrienne, any issues with guilt and regret when you went through your thing? I can't hear you now. You're muted.
The puppy was making noise.
Blame it on the dog.
I had no regrets. That was the one really beautiful thing. I gave it all I could, and really felt I did it well. And I was with him when he died, and I made his passing easier, and that was my blessing, that I wasn't left feeling that, gee, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had done that, or that we had done things together, because we did do things together. And I did not feel guilty when the time came for me to finally venture out into the world and find happiness again with somebody else.
And I can just hear some people saying, how could you not feel guilty?
I did feel guilty.
So why do people feel guilty?
There are shoulds. There are too many shoulds in this world. You shouldn't should on yourself,
I never heard that before.
Don't should on yourself.
So, Richard, how long should a caregiver expect to go through the pain of loss and not really, have fun? I mean, before they can have fun after a death, shouldn't there be a mourning period? Right? This is in the Jewish Bible, Adrienne, right? So how long should we mourn before we can justify having fun and having a celebration?
You know what, Dave? I'm going to tell you, you can't put a timeline on it. I thought I was going to be good after like 6 months, and I was probably good after about a year.
Mm.
But I think, no, you can't put a timeline on it. I mean, I think all you can do is do the best you can day by day, and eventually there's again that tipping point where it just becomes okay,
Yeah.
that it's okay to move on and embrace that, and know that it is a blessing, and your loved one wants you to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I know people who got married 6 months after the death of a spouse. I know people who, after 10 years, they're still not married. So, I mean, you know,
Yeah. Well, to say the least, like, um, when people are seeing somebody for a while and then they break up, and whoever, it's like, talk about a massive rebound when you lose a loved one. And don't jump into anything right away.
uh,
That,
the rebound.
yeah, don't say, oh, I'm free to date again, because you're more of an emotional mess than you realize.
Mm.
Um, and you don't want to start dating and all of a sudden you have to talk about your spouse or whatever. It's just, yeah, I think it's a big mistake. In fact, the girl that I started to date a few months ago, um, I wasn't. I think what it was, I wasn't looking to date anybody, and it just sort of happened.
Mm.
And because my plan for the things I'm doing, my adventures I'm going on, I wasn't going to be seriously looking for anybody for about a year, was my
Mhm.
expectation. And all of a sudden, this woman comes into my life, and we had a great time for a few months, and then it sort of dwindled down. So, but then I've taken out two other women, two other friends of mine, and we're just still friends, but I think it's a matter of allowing yourself to, be more social, you know?
Yeah. So, did you make any of those mistakes in the beginning?
Me? No, no. I'm sort of, believe it or not, I'm a bit of an introvert, so I like where I live and stay inside. I have a beautiful yard. I mean, lots of plants in my apartment complex. But no, I decided I'm going to I had not had Richard's own space for 8 years. And so I was going to
You had a lot of
hoard that.
time to make up, huh?
Yeah. In a way, I said, I'm going to be a little bit selfish with my time now,
Selfish. And
you
it's
know?
okay to be selfish. Selfish is not a dirty word
No.
for
No, but
caregivers.
there's such a stigma on that word, and I'm sort of embracing it.
Well, it's the pendulum, you know. I mean, if you
Yeah.
live the last 20 years of your life just being totally selfless and giving and empathetic and sympathetic and you're last, and then all of a sudden, it's okay to let that pendulum go and just, you know, eat, drink,
Yeah.
and sleep selfish. That's okay.
But, I mean, Dave, I sort of view that, as long as I operate ethically, if somebody doesn't like that, and because I'm being selfish or whatever, that's their projection, that's their problem,
Mm,
because I'm still operating ethically in this world.
that's a good point. Got to stay ethically.
Yeah.
So, what crazy exciting things did you do these past 2 years and why, besides the Kilimanjaro thing? I'm sure you worked up to that. That wasn't your first crazy thing, right?
Yeah, I definitely worked up on that. What did I do? I don't know. I've been working on going to Kilimanjaro for like the last year. Um, well, I went on my first cruise. I'd never been on a cruise before to the
Really?
Caribbean. Yeah, and
How was it? Did you meet anybody?
um, yes and yes, but that's a story we can't on the
You know,
radio.
the love boat. That's where romance starts, right?
Yeah, uh, not exactly, but off the air, I'll tell you the story, and you'll realize why I can't add to it. But um, well, I bought a car. I had a '93 Honda Civic, and in 2014, yeah. So Martha passed away in October of 2014, and for a Christmas gift to myself, I ordered a brand new Mustang.
Oh, is it a red sports car?
No, I almost got the red one, but I got the deep blue metallic Mustang fully loaded
Oh my
GT
God.
instead. And literally, I ordered it like 2 days before Christmas. I got it literally on my birthday in 2015.
Now, Adrienne, I don't think that qualifies as a midlife crisis
Gee.
episode, right? Because caregivers are exempt from that.
Well,
If
I'm
we
always,
could work it in,
well, I
too
did
busy
need,
to work in a crisis.
I did need a new car. It's not a midlife crisis. I did need a new car.
Yeah.
It just goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds now. That's all.
Yeah, my wife is the only thing keeping me from getting my sports car. But men are different, Adrian. Our very first love affair was with a machine when we were younger, and we had pictures of it, and we would drool over it, and we would kiss it, and stay up late changing its oil and stuff like that.
Motorcycles, anybody?
And then a woman came around and the car got neglected. But then as you get older, the car starts to regain its importance in our life. I don't know how that works.
Well, I'll tell you, Dave and Adrienne. Well, I think it's very metaphorical because when I got the car, I could drive anywhere I wanted to because one, I wanted to.
Freedom.
But it was freedom. It was total freedom. I do one of the things I've been doing since 1999 is I actually do pottery and have my own ceramic studio.
Mm.
And again, that was my time, my space.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some pottery workshops I've been wanting to go to for like 10 years, and now I could. And I get to drive my car to there and take a week-long vacation up in North Lake Tahoe. And I took another 2-week vacation in Flagstaff. But the point is, I had to drive to those two and experience the road, if you will. So, again, it's a matter of just giving yourself the freedom to go do basically whatever you want to do and have no regrets about that or guilt.
Now, here's an interesting question for both of you, because I'm still married and I've been caregiving my wife for 20 years. And every now and then I ponder what it would be like, if she, God forbid, dies, and how that would change my life, and what different things would I do. I mean, did you guys ever think of that before your spouse's death? Just entertain it for a moment?
I did. And I didn't feel guilty about it either. It was a foregone conclusion that this was something that was going to kill him. We knew that. And fantasizing was also creating my own space. What am I going to do? I think I'll go live in Paris for a couple of years, or whatever. I did have castles in the air, and I couldn't even share that with Steve.
Yeah.
And some normal spouses talk about stuff like this anyway. So, if you die first, would you want me to get married? And, kind of getting permission and stuff like that. Did any of that go on?
I think I've told you, maybe not. Steve made sure that I understood that he wanted me to have a life. He wanted me to date, wanted me to find someone. But there were 3 people on his list.
I remember.
I could not date. And that, once he gave me permission, I could have a good time.
So what was it about those 3 people you think that...
they fancied me, and he was jealous.
Oh, he wanted someone who didn't like you for you to...
He wanted me to have to do it all over again.
He didn't want something proceeding that was maybe already going on.
Yeah,
Not on your end, of course.
No, he it was a sense of ownership in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
Giving me permission.
Well, it's kind of like the illegal immigration. People are waiting in line to come into the country legally, and these people are sneaking over the borders. It's like, no, you go back and you come in the right way. That's kind of what it sounds like. How about you, Richard?
I don't think I did. I think at one point I did say, well, what am I going to do when I'm all by myself? And at that point in time, I really didn't have an answer. But I will say this, that, toward the end of, I was starting to max out on what I could handle. And so in a way, well, here's a bit of guilt for you then. I just didn't think of it, is that, I just thought, God, what a relief it will be when Martha passes. And I felt a little guilty about that, but I really didn't dwell on it. It's like, when it happens, I'll make the decision, because I wasn't interested in dating other people, or maybe doing things by myself was all I was really interested in.
Because you're that introvert.
Well, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm not exactly I'll go to parties, but I'm not the guy that's the center of attention, that's for sure.
so did either of you have your friends who automatically became your matchmakers, and all of a sudden they had people, oh, I know you and this person would just be perfect together, and, matchmaker, make me a match.
Buy me a buy. No. I would say no. No,
Adrienne, your friends knew better, right?
My friends, it wasn't just that they knew better. I think there was jealousy there too. I was free to do this, that, or the other thing, and they weren't. They were still stuck.
Wow. And I would add too that once you're a caregiver, you'll find out who your friends really are.
Yes.
I had a lot of friends, they just sort of disappeared. It was really sad, and it's like, oh, okay, I got it. But there are some friends that stick by you and ask, hey, how are you doing? And how is Martha doing? And we're very supportive that way. And I have some very close people that are really good friends. I'm very fortunate that way.
A lot of caregivers find that people come up to them and say, well, how's your wife? How's your husband? They don't ask, well, how are you? Did your friends ask how you were doing?
That's a great point. No, they didn't. Oh, wait, not as many as you'd think or would like to think. A couple. But for the most part, a lot of people just quit talking to me, and it's like, but a few of them just, they'd always ask how Martha's doing. I had some really great friends that's always asked about Martha, which I really appreciated.
Wow. Awesome. Well, listen, we're up on a break again, so let's take a break, and we'll be right back, and don't go away.
One arm, one leg, 100 words. Overcoming unbelievable hardships is a touching story about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resembled that of both a Martha Stewart and Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on her right side. She met her husband Dave 21 years earlier. They had a wonderful fairy tale storybook-like courtship that soon culminated in their marriage. Charlene had just come out of a marriage where after 10 years she received 2 black eyes and a broken nose by her former husband when he came home high on speed. Charlene believed in no second chances of any kind for abuse, so she left, finding herself all alone in the world with her 5 and 10-year-old daughters, Cynthia Lorraine and Deborah Lynn. She started raising them by herself for the next 2 years. Then fate brought them all together. After falling in love with Charlene, Cindy, and Debbie, their love then produced Rebecca. They all had a wonderful, normal life for the next 20 years. But today, things are very different for everyone. One arm, one leg, 100 words. Overcoming unbelievable hardships is the amazing story of a woman's fight to survive all that life had thrown her way. Everyone who knows Charlene is thoroughly amazed at how she lives day by day, month by month, year by year, and with a smile on her face and hope in her heart that everything is going to be okay. Her faith in God is her foundation in this hope that everything happens for a reason, and what doesn't kill her will make her stronger. She inspires everyone that meets her. Best-selling author Lynn Barrington says, "If you think you have it bad, Read this book. This is a beautiful, genuine story from the heart. It is inspiring and easy to read. When you finish this book, you'll be able to look at your concerns in a new light. 9-time Grammy and Dove Award recipient, the godfather of contemporary gospel music, Andre Crouch, says, Charlene just won't let the promises of God go, and she has not let her circumstances get in the way of her faith. She's not just a survivor, she's more than a conqueror. As the Bible states, you will be encouraged by her testimony, regardless of what you're going through. Order your copy today from the author's website, onearm1leg100words.com. And Dave and Charlene will personally autograph your copy. Enjoy.
Dave.
Sorry, I hate when I do that. And we're back with Adrienne Gruberg and Richard Barrier. Thank you for yelling at me. What advice would you guys give to someone who just lost a spouse? I mean, what are the do's and do nots? Do not do this, do that. Do not do this, do that. I mean, the shock is still there, the grief, and maybe you're just a basket case. Maybe you're happy. I mean, so what should we and should we not do right after this happens, and how much time should we give ourselves to just kind of get normal again?
Which is that to me?
Whoever wants to go first.
I don't think that there's a formula for that.
Yeah.
Some people have gone through things that I can't imagine, and they just want to run amok. And who's to say that they're wrong? But that doesn't mean that they're not grieving at the same time. For myself, 4 days after Steve died, I went online and signed up for JDate because it was just entertainment for me, looking at all these people and seeing what was out there. I had no intention of dating anyone at that time, but it was entertainment.
Just curious, huh?
Just curious, and there was slim pickings in all honesty. But it was a life lesson, and I would say the thing allowing yourself the time to grieve.
Yeah.
And not saying, well, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. If it feels right, just know when the time is right. For me, it was about 2.5 years after Steve died, I was ready to really date again. And interestingly enough, I've been with the one person that I dated and met online. We've been together over 2 years now, almost 3 years now. So it's interesting. I just didn't let myself get into something too deep too fast.
Richard?
Yeah, that's what's funny, Adrienne. I've just started to. I almost signed up, but I'm just getting the emails now through eHarmony. Because it's like, I don't know how good they are, but it's like, well, if I'm willing to date my friends and this other person, what would a total stranger be like?
Right.
And so I haven't exactly, I haven't signed up, but I'm certainly getting their emails and seeing, okay, who is out there? What is out there? And because obviously I want somebody who's not very sedentary, because I'm going on all these adventures and everything.
Right.
But I've just started to do that, and as far as what's funny is when Martha first passed, I had several lady friends of mine, just people I know through school or work or whatever, and they just become a little more friendly.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
the fresh meat scent is out.
Yeah, pretty much, but I wasn't ready, and over time they've sort of cooled down, and that's fine. But
Yeah, they come out of the woodwork, don't they?
they do. We'll stop there. But for me, the main thing is be careful of your vices. You know, if you like to drink before, don't drink even more.
That's good advice.
Because I almost got into that trap. It's like, well, you know, what's blank? It doesn't matter, you know, but it does. Just cause. I mean, you could just be careful of the vices you choose to get into.
Yeah.
Because that's a very deep. That could become a very deep, dark hole.
I think that's really good advice. I mean, I knew that I would never meet someone at a bar, at a singles bar, because I don't drink. So I didn't fall into that trap, and I never was tempted to go that way. But I certainly do know people who started to drink heavily after they lost their spouse, and that is a deep, dark hole.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too is it's almost like you've seen people who, you know, they get laid off from a job, and well, that was Martha's case. She got laid off from a job that she had had for over 30 years, and this job was so much a part of her. It's like there was this massive chunk of identity was taken away.
Sure.
And as a caregiver, I mean, I think you reluctantly, of course, embrace that identity of I am a caregiver. And once that's gone, it's like there's this big void that you got to fill it up with something. It's just be careful what you fill it up with.
Yeah. So did you do the blind date thing? None of your friends came around setting you up with anybody?
Are you talking to me, Dave?
Yeah, Richard.
No. Although, no, they didn't set.
On second thought.
We had an almost there.
Yeah, well, I certainly, let's just say, I was looking, but I didn't bother to put my foot in the water. I just wasn't ready, you know.
Sure.
I just wasn't ready. I really, you know, I would see attractive women. It's like, but emotionally, I wasn't ready. I wanted my space. I just wanted to worry about Richard for a while.
Now, did you find that most friends were supportive of you, you know, dating if you were ready, or is it the other way around? They say, "Oh, how can you think of doing that so soon?" Or
No, not at all. My friends were extremely happy that I started to date.
Yeah.
Nothing serious, but you know, you post a picture on Facebook and you get all these responses of, "Oh, she's cute," or "You make a great couple," but they were always very supportive, and they were genuinely happy for me that I had that I was starting.
Well, you know, it's very, very common that our own family members, our own children, are the ones that are the most critical of us starting a relationship. It's because, oh my gosh, how can you do that to mom, you know, and this and that. Were either of you getting any of that from your children?
Well, I don't have kids, so, and I have sisters, but I never got that from them at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And Adrienne's shaking her
I
head.
have no children either.
So that's how you avoid it. You just don't have any children.
Right.
Well, you know,
I knew.
I'm not going to go into my full story, but while I was Martha's caregiver, I had about 4 or 5 other major life events that I was juggling, and I just forgot my point.
Scale, yeah.
You know, I had all this other stuff going on, and it's like, I just wasn't ready to like take on anybody else. That I just wasn't ready.
Okay, so what type of women are you attracted to now, and are they different from your wife?
Ooh.
She's in heaven, so she can't give you any consequences to your answer.
No, but we're on public radio, aren't we?
That's a safe question, isn't it, Adrienne?
I think so. I think it's a perfectly safe question.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we have different tastes in women. That doesn't mean that we weren't in love at the time. It doesn't mean that that's not what we wanted at the time. But now, you know, we grow, we change, and sometimes sometimes couples grow apart from each other. Sometimes they
Yeah.
change and go off into a completely different direction. Maybe they both were sedimentary before, and now they're both, you know, jumping out of airplanes or whatever. So it's an
Have you
okay
done that,
question. You
Jim?
shouldn't
Yeah.
feel guilty about answering it.
Well, I'll answer it this way. Um, I wouldn't turn down a short fling right now, but as far as if I was going to be serious about it, or looking for something more long term, I'm typically looking for a woman that might be 5 years younger than me, maybe a couple of years older than me, and who wants to go on adventures and is not sedentary. And I'm losing 60 pounds when I'm all done with this. So I'd be looking for somebody that would be fit as well, because you can do so much more if you're fit than if you're
Yeah.
not. And that's just the direction I'm going. And I don't want somebody to pull me back to where I was.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely looking for somebody to have a good time with, somebody to experience things with.
And how active was your wife? I mean, what would she say to you right now, climbing Kilimanjaro and doing, half marathons, etc.?
Yeah. Wow.
Would she be
Mark,
there joining with you, or would she just be saying, "Good luck, don't break anything"?
no,
Would she
no,
be surprised?
no, she would not join me. She'd say like, um, "You go have a good time," or say, she would sometimes say on things I would want to do. I didn't leave anything in Africa.
Would she have been surprised at the things that you're doing now?
I don't think so. But
Okay.
it was beautiful about Martha, because I do pottery, and I've been in galleries and things like that, and other friends have do the same thing. Is that wasn't her thing, but she never made me feel guilty about going without her. I always invited her, but she would never go. And she goes, "No, you have a good time." So there's never this guilt, which is probably why we were married for 30 years, of, if it wasn't both of us doing it, I couldn't do it. Because she knew where I was, so I wasn't trying to hide anything or be,
Yeah.
scrupulous. But that was the beauty of it. If I wanted to go to Africa, she would say, "You have a good time with that. No guilt at all." Yeah.
Well, she sounds like a lovely person.
She's definitely not boring. And the one thing that I would want is, how can I say this? When you're with somebody, in my mind, even if you're just dating, it really is a partnership. It's your personal association, and so it's like, be careful who you decide to go with, because they could put you in a direction you had no intention of going, good or
Yeah.
bad.
Well, Richard, I can't believe how fast this hour is gone. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm always thinking the what ifs as well. And you're a hero to me, Richard. You are doing all the right things, and you've certainly exceeded my expectations of what I expected you to do. That's why I called you an overachiever. But you're very fortunate you don't have back pain like I do. I have this herniated disc, and that's just
Ugh.
really slowing me down. And I hope my chiropractor's right. He says, don't worry, just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to dry up and shrink, and your pain's going to go away. And
Go
from,
scuba diving.
yeah,
You're weightless. You're scuba diving.
Wonderful.
that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
Adrienne,
you go to wonderful destinations and dive.
so how can someone get a hold of you, Richard? Do you have, are you retired? Do you have a job? Do you have a
um,
ministry to people who need to do more exciting things in life? I mean, what's going on?
wow. Um,
You can
uh,
certainly be an advocate for this kind of lifestyle.
I actually, somebody has come into my life as a friend. She does martial arts as well, and she's actually I think it's an advocate for the Alzheimer's Association.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
And so she goes before the Senate and Congress and things like that and
Wow.
talks on the topic. Just came into my life. We're just
Hmm.
friends. I mean, she's got a boyfriend already, but people, if they go to, because I created that app called Text Me Later.
Hmm.
So if they go to www.txtmel8r.com,
What?
my contact information is there, and I'm in the phone book. I'm on Google and Facebook and all that. So if somebody really wanted to get in touch with me, I'm very easy to find. As far as once you go to Kilimanjaro, and I was in Africa for a month, I came back going like, well, God, in my mind, I'm creating defining moments for myself.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole point of going to Africa was. So I go like, what's my next defining moment? I mean, how do you top Kilimanjaro? Buddy of mine calls me up. We're going to do the 500-mile pilgrimage trek in northern Spain.
Wow.
From eastern Spain to the tomb of St. James. And then we could go on a couple of other places. But, yeah, it would be like a month of doing half marathons every day.
Wow. Adrienne, how do people get a hold of you if they want to pick your brain of your wisdom?
Well, it's Adrienne, ADRIENNE, at thecaregiverspace.org. And the website is thecaregiverspace.org. And tonight I'm actually doing a tweet chat for Cure Magazine.
Oh.
And that should be exciting. I'm happy about that.
We connect.
You go to, oh my goodness, it's hashtag Cure Connect.
How do you spell that?
CURECONNECT.
Cure
Connect. Cure is a very, very good magazine.
What time?
9 Eastern Standard Time.
9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Cool.
Yes.
Well, thank you both for coming on the show, and we will see everybody next week at 12 noon. And remember, this show is recorded and can be seen on my website, caregiverscaregiver.com. And while you're there, don't forget to take that free quiz and get my book absolutely free. Till next week, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program with Dave Nassaney. Join Dave every Tuesday at 12 noon Pacific. Or catch the program anytime, 24/7, right here on Radio Star Worldwide.
Good show. I let you go over because we started a little late and I didn't have